Hey guys, so I bet you didn't expect one of these videos. So what we're actually looking at here is a training match between me and KD. And what's going to happen is you're going to see me use the WLT swipe. They call it the Demon Blade. It's just some fancy tech for swiping the L2 charge of the Walt really far. So you hold the charge on it while you're unlocked, or you're in manual aim mode, as you'll see. Then you switch to soft lock at the right time, and you get something kinda like that, but I think that's not correct. We'll see a little bit later in the video. I'll point it out when it happens. And it creates this spike that is really fast from left to right, and it right there. And it reaches around too, so it's going the full length, and you have this wide area of activation. Now, I've seen it cause a few issues of missing things at distance, but I don't think that's entirely the tech's fault. I think it may be a hitbox or lag thing. I'm not sure. But it seems really nice. Now, I've kind of been curious as to why this has been a thing that has been... Again, there it is. Carried on to be like a big part of the game, or at least a big part of its weapon. Now, I mean, any tech you can use is useful, don't get me wrong. Now, any little thing to add to the arsenal to make your gameplay better is going to improve it. But it struck me as odd initially. And I usually don't mess with these sorts of things. But I figured, I do melee swaps, I do fast move set cancels in Elden Ring and Souls. I've been doing that stuff for years, so I mean, the Tech and Armor Core is not that far out of my wheelhouse. I'm glad I did this test. I really am. So if you see something like this and you're thinking, I can't do that, or nah, it's just too hard or something, nah, don't doubt yourself. Just try it. Because worst case scenario, you find some new tech that's mildly enlightening, and it might change the way you look at the game. This really didn't change a whole lot of how I operate, and I don't think it's going to. But it does give me another option with this AC, which I just built as a joke a while back. And it turned out to be a lot more effective than I thought it would be. Yeah, I get wrecked in this training video, but that's going to happen. And we're going to move on to some other melee mechs that... Well, I don't know if you can strictly call them melee at this point. This thing was a joke. Ray came at me a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month at this point, with a Wurger kite. You guys have probably seen it on the channel from time to time. And it's got a single Wurger, 2 Essigens, and I don't remember the other weapon. Regardless, the idea was a 150 gen, so the VE-20B, with a single Wurger for a punish and or a break or a stop, please get off me. By now you guys know my propensity for having 0 active brain cells on any given day, and I just like damage, a lot of it, all the time. And, I mean, 2 Wurger do more damage than 1 Wurger, especially when 1 Wurger break. So caveman brain liked that damage number go up, so I do think. I mean, yeah, it's a Schneider-ish mech, but come on, that kind of AC is always going to be what gets you the best result on these. The build is what you see on screen, the VE-20B with, I think that might be the SLS, it's one of the two. And everything else is obvious. You got the ephemera core, the VP-46 head, I think, and of course the Nocturire arms and legs. That is the Alula boosters, in case you're curious. Basic standard rifle, I forget its name. MLT missiles in the left hand, 2 Wurgers. And the game plan is basically what you see. Against guys that are at close quarters, you just run away until they get close, and you double tap them if you can. As I like to call it, the Tyrant Rave combo. That's guilty of reference to those who don't know. It's a pretty stupid one, so we'll move on. That said, it is disturbingly more effective than I expected it to be. I've only taken it into rank for like a day or two. Haven't actually spent a whole lot of time with stuff since I built this, just life. But I'm legit surprised. And the fact that's still happening a year later maybe just means I need to be more creative. Or maybe it means the game has more legs than people give it credit. I'd like to see some DLC though from. Come on. That said, we got yet another game with this same AC versus a lighter version of Pistolier, which you saw in the last round. Now, I have a kind of a controversial take on this because I think this actually performs worse because I perform worse. But regardless, this other AC in the versus situation does get better results. So, KD's other light you have here is basically the one you just saw, slimmed down to fight at like 213/Lachesis speeds. And it works pretty well most of the time. If it can get in and it can stay in, it's going to cause you problems. And it has no shortage of ACS brake rollover. As you can see, that is very powerful. Now, what it lacks in range, it doesn't really need to make up for, because it can just damage you with its back unit and run away. If it's still running the same one, I'm thinking. Regardless, it is a similar build mech. And to that end, you're going to get similar results. But that's a lot less AP than I finished the first round with against Whiskey. So, you'll see it again when this round I make a major flub later on, and it cost me dearly. But nature of the game. If you make mistakes, you're gonna get put down, especially in light. I also start kicking for some reason, and stop that. And lights, what is it we did? Light that. Can't afford it, and here it is. I failed to hit the assault armor, and like that, I'm toast. Because no. That's me, though. As you can see, though, his design is much more aggressive. Now, against other ACs, they can fight differently up close. Something with a bomb thrower with much more armor. The smaller version of Whiskey over there is going to get all manner of other problems. This is very much a light versus light problem. But I think it does a good job of accentuating the lethality of this thing if it gets what it wants. Now, I've said before, 213 bomb thrower or javelin missile ACI, relatively known for in the friend group, can get the job done. But 213 has problems. A lot of them stem from it just relies too much on something that it can't have all the time. And with the Worders cooldown, you can have them pretty often. And unlike the bomb thrower, you can have two, and they do good damage pretty quick. They're just trash, but I mean, you gotta make a trade-off somewhere, right? That said, the results speak for themselves. It's pretty decent. This abomination to God, I'm not even sure I'm gonna leave in the video at this point. I might. Who knows? It's free real estate, as they say. This is a kind of a combi project between, air quotes, glued together project of the AC's Project Mercury and Silver Star, which you've seen on the channel before. However, I'm just going to throw it out there. This is me throwing stuff at the wall to see what happens, and you're going to see the results are exact. This happens occasionally. I don't normally record this sort of stuff. Like, this entire video is stuff I normally don't waste my time putting together recording. Because it's all like theory crafting, or we just want to test a concept. And this is the rawest form of this right here. Just something I've made 20-something odd iterations of, just trying to figure out something else. I normally would never post this, but it's an interesting point because it combines the MLT with a melee cancel on a booster that allows it to move very well. It's not very Kaikaki, but it's still pretty good. It also combines that with a competent shotgun, which I am very incompetent at using at this point, and the touchsticks. Don't escape me for a minute. I don't feel like this design is bad. I feel like this design has problems, probably because I have the Knockbriar for it, but realistically, I feel like a much better melee pilot could probably pull more juice out of this than I can. I have trouble with the swaps, and you guys have no doubt noticed that throughout the previous videos you've been here for any time. I typically will screw up the swaps at least one point in the fight. So, if you're cleaner with that than I am, this might actually be something to run. Now, I don't remember if this has the Flugel or the Alula in this video, because I was throwing these back and forth when I did this, and this is the only match of this guy I have recorded. But either one will do the job. The Alula, if you like the classic, more quick boost to full charge, or the Flugel if you prefer the melee cancel to full charge. Really, it's kind of a preference, I think, but there's got to be a clear winner in my mind. I just don't know what it is. That said, we're going to move over to Silver Star now. Does, I believe, have the Flugel boosters. And you can actually get to see this thing perform well for once. Yeah, Flugel in this game. You'd think that little bit of difference doesn't make a whole lot. The back-mounted missile and the consistent left-handed blade. Now, I do make some serious stupid errors in this video, but you've been around for any length of time, you already know that's happening. If I'm not mistaken, this one also has a weird end. Now, the Lance versus the Laser Blade in a dedicated melee fight, where you don't have another melee weapon, you don't have swaps, it's always on the arm. It's kind of a weird fight. If you've never done this, which is unlikely, I guess, but it's worth mentioning, whoever gets the charge off first is not always the winner, and it is heavily dependent on gauging the range at which you get that full charge. And if you don't get that full charge, you are getting business most times. The Lance is a little better at judging that vertically. The Laser Blade, of course, has a giant wide swath, so horizontally it's probably better. Now, I don't know if the charged laser glitch is still in, where you have the cannon charge it, and if the cannon's charged, the Lance auto-aims towards the target. If that is still a thing, that's obviously the best thing you can do with the Lance. But case in point as to how wide that swing can be. Now, there's a trick with that as well. You can also unlock at the last minute. I don't show it here. I wish I had thought about it. But you can also get some weird shenanigans with the Laser Blade because of it. That is also true of other blades. It's just not stuff people really talk about, because it's not as useful. Things like the oscillator swing and the LB are really noticeable because they're huge and they cover a massive area. You can do it with the pile bunker as well. It does a pretty weird turn. If you're familiar with the move, you've seen him do that. And the butter knife's arguably, in my opinion, probably the smarter one to do it all the time, just because you can do it constantly. But if you can't take the hits, maybe not. Now, what I'm fishing for here is that ACS break to get that double charge, right? However, things go poorly. Still a decent match. Anyway, that's what I got, guys. Sorry it's been mostly a random kind of talk-around video. I don't normally like to do these at length. Especially not ones where I talk all the way through. Kind of feels weird, especially without the music. But I wanted to do this because I just haven't done one in forever. And this is the kind of video that if you're going to do it on, might as well. That's what I got. Take it easy. Hope you had a good time watching. I hope I didn't talk your ear off. And I will catch you guys in the next one. See ya.